Hello, so we're finding the terminal point on the unit circle determined by 3 pi over 4 radians. And we're supposed to use exact values, not decimal approximations. Okay, so let's first understand that the terminal point on the unit circle is written in the form of x comma y, just like a coordinate. But the x represents the cosine of theta, and the y represents the sine of theta. In other words, cosine of the angle and sine of the angle. Now, let's say we have our unit circle. Now, make sure you're familiar with the unit circle. If you're not, please become familiar, because you need to be familiar with the angles. We know that the unit circle starts with 0 degrees and goes counterclockwise, right? And over here is 90 degrees and or pi over 2 in radians, right? It can be written in degrees and radians. Now 3 pi over 4, which is our angle, right? We can say theta is equal to 3 pi over 4, which it gives it to us in our question. That's the angle that we're finding the terminal point of. Yes. So now 3 pi over 4 on the unit circle lies right in the middle of quadrant 2. So this is 3 pi over 4, or in degrees it's 135, same thing, right? Now we're basically finding cosine of 135 or cosine of 3 pi over 4 and sine of 3 pi over 4. And people who are familiar with, well, who have also memorized the unit circle know that the cosine will be, terminal point will be negative radical 2 over 2, comma, sine will be radical 2 over 2. And that's basically what your answer is. Oops, I need to put. So cosine of 3 pi over 4, comma, sine of 3 pi over 4. Yes? So that's basically what you're finding. Cosine of 3 pi over 4 is negative radical 2 over 2, comma, radical 2 over 2. Good? And that's basically what your answer is. I mean, if you know the unit circle, if you have memorized it, you know that that's the terminal point. Now, if you haven't, let's say, for example, memorized the other quadrants, but you know the first quadrant, which is what I usually tell my students, you know there's a pattern that is followed around the unit circle. So if you know the first quadrant, you basically know the other quadrants too. So let's say you just know the first quadrant, right? Okay, let me try to draw straight lines. Let's say this is right here is, okay, I need this, and this. So let's just say you know the first three angle, which is, well, you know the 0 degrees, and we know this is 30 degrees, you know the 45 degrees, and you know the 60 degrees. So this in radians is pi over 6, pi over 4, and pi over 3. So if you know those angles, and we know that you can find something called a reference angle. So reference angle is basically an angle that refers back to the first quadrant. So we're finding the reference angle 135 degrees, which in this case we know that the reference angle, if it's an angle in the second quadrant, we can find the reference angle by doing pi minus that angle, right? So basically we can do pi minus our angle is 3 pi over 4. And we can make this a fraction. We know we can subtract fractions only when the denominator is the same. So to make them the same denominator, we can times by 4 times by 4. That gives us 4 pi over 4 minus 3 pi over 4. And that is basically pi over 4. So we can basically find cosine of pi over 4 and sine of pi over 4, which is going to give us, which if you know your first quadrant, you know it's going to give you radical 2 over 2 and comma radical 2 over 2. Now, you do still look at the second quadrant to see what is your sign. We know that in the second quadrant, cosine is negative, which is why it's going to be negative radical 2 over 2, and sine is going to be radical 2 over 2. Okay? So that's your final answer. Thank you.